Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Daily Discipline, where it is meant to serve as motivation, inspiration, and encouragement for the masses. Today's episode, I have a special guest. I will begin with some of his accolades, which the special guest is Mr. Cecil Ward Jr., better known as Coach Ward. How you doing today?
I'm good.
All right.
And
So
blessed.
there you go. So let me go ahead and give a little background about Coach Ward. Uh, he is a Kentucky High School Education Associate, Kentucky High School Athletics Association Hall of Fame inductee, and he's recently coached at Kentucky State University, where he was the men's and women's track and field and cross country coach. Prior to that, he was the head coach of the girls' track and field team at Paducah-Tillman High School in Paducah, Kentucky, where he coached the squad to 12 state titles, state championship titles, including 8 straight titles from 2000 to 2007. Now, during that time, he also coached 2 boys cross-country teams to state titles. So altogether, that is 14 state titles. I repeat once again, as a track and field and cross-country coach, he has coached 14 state title championship teams. Also, he led the squads to state championships also in 1974, 1975, and 1979, which we would like to speak about in particular a little bit later into this interview. And I know that's just, a background as far as his coaching, but as a person, that's what we're going to get into today. So today, I would like to discuss like the daily discipline that it took for you to get to where you are right now. But I would like to go ahead and get straight into it. Could you tell the people where you're from and some of your journey getting to where you are now?
Okay, I'm from the big city of Providence, Kentucky, coal mining country. We didn't live in a penthouse. Those that don't know before integration, a lot of you have no idea. Went to Rosenwald High School as a first grader and second grader. Moved to Louisville and stayed over on Coke Alley, where we did but in Coke Alley. Moved back when I was in about the 4th grade. Now you think track is something that African Americans did? You don't know. I'll give you a little Paducah history. I'll give you a little Providence history first. Then I'll give you actual Paducah history and some of the other schools and coaches. First of all, let me ask you this. Of all the great black athletes from Kentucky, name their black high school coach. Clem, Dwight, and Greg.
Go ahead and tell them the last names as well so they know what you're talking about.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to those. So when in Providence, mostly our thing that we could do is when you get older, be in a coal mine, move away and work in the factory or the military. And that's a lot of people, not just me. Matter of fact, our track meets was called May Day. I'll come back to that too. When you talk about any of us from that period of time, you need to understand, for example, Providence Rosenwald had no gym. Basketball team went and practiced outside until they could go inside and practice in the little gym. And when they finally got to play in the big gym at Providence, that was a great occasion.
Well, go ahead and tell us a little bit about Providence, growing up there.
Okay, Mama had a store. Let me tell you about a real hero. My mother Grew up in Sacramento, Kentucky. Got to go to school for 6 years in two pieces. Now you say, how in the world can somebody build a store, a wood store, had big brick siding on it, then built another store? The store was a community type deal because she also had a little joint where people come and dance and had a jukebox, and the characters I could name, well, you'll know them after a while. Uh, uh, all the people had nicknames. Baseball was a big sport. You heard about boxing. So how in the world did I get from no opportunity to having an opportunity? And I have to give you some reference. Like, for example, when your mother was in Sturgis, 1956 and 1957, they had to
So,
bring the national. Huh?
by the way, if people haven't figured it out, yes, this is my father. So, yes, but go ahead, though.
Well, that's one reason you have to work with kids. And you have to do things that, well, anyway, we'll get back to that. But in 56, 57, they had to have the National Guard come in. Okay? 1958, you can see all the people voting for President Roosevelt. I mean, dang, I'll tell you, the president, Republican, Democrat, they voted Republican. Matter of fact, that president, I got to see his train go through Oakland City, Vincennes Community College after he died. Okay, now I know his name, but I'm not going to say it now. So I'm going to go right on.
All right.
People in the community came to the store because coal miners, again, could get anything they wanted from the Island Creek store in Arlington. But they would come to Mama store and buy groceries on credit. Okay, because even the coal miners had all the time didn't get paid in cash. They got paid with a slug that they can redeem. Now they can buy almost anything because Tennessee Ernie Ford said they always sold to the company store. They did because all year they had to pay it off. Okay, so we get down to the late 50s, 59. My brother and sister, they graduated from Providence Rosenwald. Mr. Knuckles was the principal. Matter of fact, Mr. Knuckles gave me a whooping when I was first grader. Now, how would a man whoop a first grader? Well, long story short, the bell rang. Back then, people had to march in when it's time to go in. The bell said, hey, y'all come off the playground, wherever you are, let's line up and march in by grade. So I heard the bell ring and I started running. I had my coat and my sister gave me, had a little brown buckle in the front. I started running, ran up by my sister's house, ran over, ran, got down to the bottom of the street and the bell was rung and everybody marched in. I walked up the hill and it was a long way up there, it seemed like. Got up there and Mr. Knuckles sitting over the window looking down on me. Boy, come here. So I opened the door, went up those 4 steps. Now I know those 4 steps. It definitely marked it. Went down the little hall, went up these other steps. Upstairs, here's the 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th, and 11th and 12th. And as I'm going down the hall, everybody started laughing. I get in there, Mr. Knuckles took his belt. I don't know if he had it specially made or not, but he took that belt and gave me 3 licks. And you better play like it hurt, because if not, he may give you more. So that new coat saved me. He tore that coat up, boom, boom, boom. I stooped down. Of course, I played like it really hurt. But my sister's coat that she bought for me saved my life that day. But there was great fun there. We played outside. I'm giving you some historic, some things that happened at most black students. Big P, they was being able to go outside and play under the tree and wrestle. We had swings that were 10 feet tall to swing out over a road If one of the kids had fallen out, they'd probably been dead. But mercy sakes, has some great teachers. I can tell you about each one. And when I talk about them, how in the world did some of them get to go to college when very little opportunity exists? Miss Woolfolk, first grade teacher. Her husband uh, was a Woolfolk. He had horses, and matter of fact, they had a bomb shelter back then. Then you had Miss Reese. Then, of course, you had Miss Caldwell. Now, if you couldn't do fractions, you may be in the fifth and sixth grade for a long time. Wes Unsel's wife was in that class with Connie. They moved on to Louisville. Mr. Martin was the principal and basketball coach. Then we went upstairs. We had Mrs. Ferguson. You had Miss Chandler, and you had a couple other people that I can't. That was did business, and each of them had their own history that you could write about. Okay, growing up in Providence again, I said baseball was a big sport. Oh man, it's made uh, patriotism. Let's talk about that a little bit. All the soldiers that had come back from Korea, a lot of them had been in World War II. Every Memorial Weekend, they had a big parade. And Stella Cox, who was a WAC, all the people down would come and speeches would happen. Wasn't long before that we'd have May Day. I remember May Day, we had the sack race, we had the softball throw, 50-yard dash. And those, back in school, I remember Mr. Morton having a cane poles used for a high jump, dug out some sand so they could long jump, and used that same thing for a high jump. I remember one of the guys from the neighborhood we called him Tom Tom. Win the high jump, then they'd go play a softball game. I remember especially Hopkinsville coming down. All them pretty girls from Hopkinsville in their uniforms because they had the band. All them marched all the way up on top of it. It was a big occasion. Now, most of, again, Providence didn't have no gym. So you played outside and played basketball outside. So I don't know how many basketballs they didn't have, but I know if a ball ran down the hill, they had to go down the ditch to get it. Some of the great players, Marshall Mason, Bob Copeland, Armand Roll, and Cleo Rice, Cleo could jump, two-handed dunk. Melvin Ferguson, he was on the team. William Price. Now, why is that important? Because finally, Providence had enough good players to have a good team. I look back at 1940s, they only played 5 or 6 games. Okay? So you look at what people had, all adults. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Don't care what your name, Mr. Red on it or whoever it was. Had a philosopher, a philosopher named Mr. Gordon Willis, Mr. GV. He'll tell you a story. Now you go get a haircut, costs 50 cents. Now you be there for a while because you got to listen to the stories about Tuskegee, him living in Alabama. I mentioned him because he's very smart. Matter of fact, before he died, he was trying to make a fuelless motor. He'll tell us about down in Alabama on the river boats. He also played the sax back in the day when Providence had the Green Gable. Some of the major attractions would come. Now, Providence in 1930s, 20s, and 30s was larger when you look at population some of the Indiana cities like Evansville, because all the coal miners would come in on the weekend and shop. And, of course, they had fun too. We had a heck of a deal. after basketball games, we'd go down to Miss Margaret's, where you could dance if it's on a weekend, and everybody have a good time and go home. Didn't have to worry about no shootings. Now, sometime back in the day, they had some, but very seldom. Would you ever have anybody killing each other? Matter of fact, when I lived in Louisville and down on Coke Alley, I could walk down to my grandmother's. You know, the Bennett photographer here in Louisville, that was his grandmother also. I could walk down there by myself, down from Booker T. Washington Elementary, and not have to worry about it. Now, I have to wash the cars.
Of course.
So
So
when you look, go
I'll
ahead.
go ahead and say this. Shout out to all those individuals that have been named and discussed, as well as the military veterans. Definitely have a soft place for you all. Currently doing work for military veterans, so just continue to stay encouraged and be encouraged. Uh, I know you briefly told us some about like Providence and some of the things that made Providence at the time what it was. What would be like a regular day in Providence?
Well, during school, you get up and the bells start ringing. You go to school. You always had something to do. Mama had, grandpapa always said, always raise a garden, can your food. We'd play too. Now we go in what we call the big hills. They wasn't really that big. That's behind your cousin Wesley's house. We go over there and play cowboys and Indians. Everybody in the neighborhood had an Indian name. I was Warhorse.
Right.
Everybody had a name. Had a slingshot. And I was such a little angel. Matter of fact, I look at it now. How could you do that? Because one lady got me into a whooping. I didn't do it. And those are things you didn't want to get. So I got a whooping, and my mother had in the back door window of the house, I could slide the window open. And this woman told her story on me. So I got me my slingshot and some rocks. I got me 5 or 6 of them. So she had a tin roof. I'd go and take my slingshot and shot on her roof. She didn't hear it, I'd shoot again. She come outside, look around, I go again. She go back in, I shoot again. Now I was such an angel, but I did stop. I got a heck of a whooping.
So
Mr. Van,
I know you speak about your mother. You referenced her a few times.
Oh yeah.
What was her influence on you growing up?
Well, Mama had you think I look 5:35 for a woman, build a store, get up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, work until late at night. If money wasn't coming in, she'd go work up at the Bright Spot and cook. Come back home at 10. Repeat again. Everybody always had hogs. Hogs so you could slaughter them in the winter. Had a garden. So you didn't have a lot of money, but you had my whole neighborhood took care of us all. Next door neighbor, Miss Jessie. Come in, Cecil, got some biscuits and sorghum molasses for you. Her and Mr. Ben Wilkins. Miss Julie up the street. When Mama had a hard time having enough funds, Mama would go out and pray, be singing. Miss Julie knew the signal, so she'd come down, take her apron, take those few dollars or whatever it was, so Mama could buy some more soda, have the meat packing people come by, and she could cover the bills that she had. I have talked about Mr. Sherman. Mr. Sherman and Miss Lillian. I was their favorite child in the neighborhood. I'd go up and watch how they do it. Mr. Leland said, Cecil Jr., here's some cookies and milk. Mr. Sherman would take me down to the river down by Paducah and stay overnight fishing. He made a camper out of his truck. We'd go wade in the water. Mr. Van was a swimming instructor. He was a coal miner too and played baseball. Mr. Van Mutter lived down the street. He took everybody in the neighborhood out to Duvin Lake to swim. So I looked at Mama, who had very little, and she'd sell hamburgers, cut them in two. She'd sell half, and we eat half. Some of the characters that came to our store, Mr. Bo Weevil, I got pictures of him too. Miss Mary Alice, Mr. Red on it. People come and sit and talk. Mr. Bo Weevil's from Alabama. You can tell he had worked in the cotton fields because all the hard hands that were rough. Had another guy, Mr. Tommy, that came from Alabama. He was going to show me how to tap dance. Okay, my dad, I used to follow him up in the woods. I remember one time he cutting wood, looked so good. Him chewing that tobacco. Give me a little piece, because he's cut wood, spit. That's all we can describe it. So I got a little, he gave me a little piece, he started laughing. I never did chew tobacco after that episode of being sick.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a whole neighborhood. Mama was my inspiration. She was the best coach I ever had, because she could take nothing and make something out of it. Had a rough life. I could tell you more, and that'd be in my book probably. But that's when you're around Mama, you don't, if you like to eat, you better learn how to cook. You had a job. Didn't have to ask me 2 or 3 times. Go out and dig up the garden. So when both my parents, I got at Mama and Daddy's separate divorce when I was young. Mama took me to Indianapolis. First time riding the bus. I didn't know we had to ride on the back of the bus, but we rode the bus and had a great experience. I remember the Greyhound bus driver by my lunch. I had my little hat on. He said, "Man, you're a little sharp guy." He watched me while I went to the restroom, make sure I made it safe, came back. Went to Indianapolis. I remember that so well, going up to black Indianapolis, I guess, street lights or whatever. The taxi took us. It was pitch dark, and went up to my uncle's house where I stayed. And I saw the fight there at Charles when he hit somebody, knocked him out. The guy died the next day. Young people don't forget. And that's where we have a deficit right now in our community. If you're not 60s, late 60s or 70s, you haven't any idea when you couldn't, because now you can. A lot of people that 60, 70, 60, 50 and below have no understanding of when the black community was together, wasn't jealous, wasn't backstabbing, because now you can. You don't know when you couldn't. Okay? You could be as good as and couldn't. You could have all kind of talent and couldn't. Providence had a lot of people that I didn't know about until later that was in New York. There were musicians and putting on plays. A lot of things in a small town. People got to be successful. I looked at the people from Rosamond, how many of them became teachers and very successful after they had an opportunity. So when I talk about the 50s and 50s, different time. Okay, Democratic Party was not a friend to African Americans. not until President Kennedy. Then the Republicans were a better party for us, and they understood it. People who couldn't read and write. Don't think because some people can't read and write, they don't have common sense.
Right.
Mama always called it mother wit. They could understand when somebody meant nothing good for you and when somebody had an opportunity. Eisenhower, 58, had a, he was what he was. He was the best choice we had. Matter of fact, when I was a freshman at Oakland City, his train came through Vincennes as I was throwing the discus right in the middle of campus with all the flags. I still remember as if it was yesterday. So we come to the 60s. Mr. Morton, I didn't know exactly who got our team to where it was, but actually Mr. Morton did a great job. But
So
I
you
couldn't talk.
referring to Oakland City College, or you talking about Providence?
Well,
Roosevelt.
when Eisenhower came through, it was Eisenhower when I was in college. But in Providence in the early 60s, Mr. Knuckles retired. Mr. Martin came down from Morganfield. He came because I didn't get to see a lot of basketball games. But Mr. Morton, he had got the team going. They were doing well. And when you don't know, you don't know. I thought Mr. Jones had really got the thing rolling, but Mr. Morton had got it. Mr. Morton came to Louisville, and he was a preacher and a principal here in Louisville. And Connie and all his family came to Louisville. Okay, so then Mr. Herbert Jones came. Mr. Jones came, and Mr. Jones he was an imposing figure. And I couldn't play. Matter of fact, I didn't have basketball until I was about 8th grade to play basketball because I
Okay.
stayed in Dixon. Okay,
I know you briefly talked about basketball. So I know people that don't know, he was also an athlete himself in track and field, where he's won 2 individual state championship titles and shot put in discus. And then later on, he went to WKU, West Kentucky University, as a decathlete. And also set a record in the javelin, correct?
Yeah. Matter of fact, and the reason I mentioned basketball in the May Day, as a freshman, we integrated. The high school integrated first. In 1964, they made it to state. And after integration, I mentioned Mr. Martin because Mr. Martin got it going. Mr. Jones had a great team. And I mentioned basketball because you didn't have no track. Okay? They integrated, and Mr. Martin's and Mr. Jones' team were at Providence and at high school. So they end up going to state. What games we had with Princeton Dotson before integration? So how did I get from no track, running up and down behind the school when we had 1 track meet a year for field day, was when I've given Mr. McCoy Chandler credit for taking me to a state basketball game. What does that have to do with track? One, it showed me Butch Beard and the Rose Boys and all the athletes and how big a stadium Freedom Hall was. And, I was pretty smart. I figured out because I didn't have a basketball, hadn't really developed skills in basketball. When we integrated, I always, again, have to talk about Mr. McCoy because Mr. McCoy coached us in basketball, took us places we never had been, down to Clarksville where Wilma Rudolph had been. I remember playing against Boxhead, them playing in Providence. Now, why would he take me to see a basketball game? But I found out later, Marshall, he took Marshall, Mr. Morton and McCoy took Marshall to this. Why is that important? Because one, it gave me the confidence. I saw how other African Americans can succeed. And he took time showing us how to play basketball, whatever. But then I went to Providence High School. And I have to give credit to Mr. White. Now, as a freshman, I set the school record in the shot put. No weights. The only thing I had weights was in the hayfield. Hard work getting in cold and whatever. 43, whatever it was. Beat a guy's name, Clemens. One of the other athletes' daddy. Had one discus through 129 first year. Second year, I got a little better. I wasn't very tall either. So I dug me a long jump pit in the backyard. No sand. Took the discus around Providence and practiced with that. Now, of course, I couldn't lose it. Had a shot junior year. I got bigger and stronger. I read about the Smith boy, not Smith, Jesse Stewart's family in Glasgow and all the weight training they did. So I made me a bench out of one of Mama's stools, bench that swivel around, and I welded it together. So I rounded up 220 pounds in weights. So I won the state my junior year in the shot. Should have won the discus. It was my fault. Didn't have triple jump. Placed in long jump my sophomore. So I threw 49, whatever it was, and won the discus. Saw Jim Green when he was running. See that number flapping in his back. We've been friends since then.
Shout out to Mr. Jim Green. Great man. And shout out to you for the what he had the track named after him, the indoor meet.
Yeah, had the new statement. I went up to see him. But see, anything that Jim went through, a lot of us went through. Okay, I wasn't as good as Jim. I wasn't no sprinter like him. But all of us had, I'm talking about where you come from. And I'll tie all that together. So that summer, I lifted weights. Mr. White took me to see the Mason-Dixon with that spring. Saw Dallas Long in the shot. One of my friends that later became one of my great friends, Ralph Boston. Long jump and hurdle. Then I saw Wilma Rudolph, pretty woman. That was my girlfriend, but I never told her I was 15. What a pretty lady. I saw Martha White, long jump. Saw them run relays. I didn't know Coach Temple. He, again, of course, you met him. He took you out to Sweat Steve when you came in from Texas, I think it was, or Arkansas.
It was Arkansas.
So I got to meet Arkansas. Saw Mamie Rollins, who later became friends. Matter of fact, that summer I worked my tail off. I could throw about 164, 165 in the discus. Hart gave us some concrete and made me a shot put circle. And to tie it off, the next year, matter of fact, that junior year, we had a good team, had time to win the state. Mr. White had done a great job. We had a 2-miler. We had a couple of sprinters that wasn't going to beat Jim Green. Yeah, I wouldn't either. So you have to understand, but we had good place. Had a half-miler. George Steele, I remember we didn't have no track to round down the sidewalk. He tied a string around his ankles. So you have 1 yard for every time he'd take a step. So they figured out what 440 yards was out in the front of the school on the sidewalk. We ran indoors at the up and down the halls at the Broadway Elementary. Mr. White took interest with me. Matter of fact, my freshman year, he took me to meet in Owensboro. First meet I ever competed in. The coach that used to be at Western had moved to, he was there, Tom Ecker, and they had the triple jump. And you had to win in order to go to a meet in Houston. So I won the triple jump 39 feet barefooted because it rained and Mr. White had a grass sack of old leather spikes with long spikes in it. And they had a stick down for the board and I jumped 39 feet. And I won, yeah, but that age group didn't get to go. The guy that we had that ran the 400, Ralph Harkins, got to go to Houston. My first meet that I went to. Okay, so nobody had great facilities. Went down to Tillman Invitational. The coach down there, Mr. Majors and Mr. White had both gone to Western. He had one heck for me. He started the Tillman Invitational. 20-some teams came. Well, it was all boys. Girls started running in 66 or 67. Had a great meet. Had well organized. Had people, the accurate timing, because it wasn't one person timing. They would average the time. Okay? So I got to go to Tillman Invitation. I saw Herms Lee run as a freshman, run 48.9 on 440. He got hurt that summer. A car hit him. Now, of course, I didn't know Herm, but I respected because he participated. Saw a guy jump 15 feet first time my junior year because they had a pit. Those that don't know what a pit is, by air, you blow it up and you have a fan blowing it up. And the guy from Henderson jumped 15 feet. I went to that meet. I won 3 events. Discus shot. No, I didn't win the shot because a guy named Cross from Lower Central won the 57. Okay? Then they gave out a standing award. Of course, I didn't get it because they couldn't. They gave it to somebody else. Okay? I threw 140-something and won the discus. Maybe long in triple jump and second in the shot. So that spring, Mr. White, the next spring, before the season started, outdoors, again, I'd seen Ralph, I saw Walker triple jump. And Walker at the time jumped 54 or something. So I had an idea of what the triple, so he brought the triple jump in. So I looked at Ralph, at long jump. I looked at Art Walker, had no running, no pit. Never used a tape measure to measure anything. On time I started using tape measure after Ralph Boston told me that after I asked him some stuff at a college meet. You just run down and guess, and that was close enough. I didn't win the triple jump. I was second. I jumped 44, 8 or 9. Another guy he was a tall guy, that won with 46 or 44, whatever it was. But that's first time in Kentucky that triple jump had been held. I was 4th in the shot. On the Stewart boys, John threw 60 feet. First time in Kentucky, anybody had jumped 6 feet. You get to jump, compete at night. I got to compete at night, long, triple. And so that gave me a lot of experience. So we heard about Bob Thomas, Mr. White, and the coach at Madisonville, friends also. A guy named Bob Thomas came to Madisonville. So he called and said, "Can he come over?" I took my old '58 Oldsmobile, drove to Milesville, spent 2 days, and corrected me throwing 3 times out of bounds the year before when I could have won the state, should have won the state. Now, ain't nothing for sure, but I I threw far enough that I could have won. And uh, I found how to correct it. I went from throwing 140 something to 157. Same meet. And when we had it at Madison, I jumped 46.9. Now, 46.9 may not, again, that would have placed a lot of college meets then because it just come out. And the pit over to Madisonville had a little bit of runway, had mostly jumping off of grass because the between the pit and the end of the runway had another section of concrete. So 469, jump 469, 23-1 in the long jump. Hey, I'm going to win all four at state. Should have. And my fault because I didn't. Okay. So my senior year, I was poised to win 4 events. I wasn't a one-man team. We had some other athletes. A lot of them said, well, you're very, very talented. I had some talent, but I went and found technique over talent. Shot put. Of course, I spent some time with Bob, but there was a guy named Bob Winchell in Evansville. He threw 60 feet at Mr. White took me to Evansville. He loved track, so I went with him. Got through 60 feet. Guess what I did that summer? I called him. I said, hey, man, would you mind me coming over and practice with you over at Evansville? So I practiced. I got a good understanding of shot put before I went to college. I made my own pit that year. I had actually made some with sand. Down at the school, I had a discus circle. Compliments for Heart and Heart, and one of the guys coming up and helped me set it up. Mr. White would call me. We'd practice during the summer. So I didn't really know how to get into college. Again, basketball was important for a whole lot of African Americans going to college. Because when Greg and Dwight went to Western, and we had others went to Murray, a guy named William Price went to Oakland City, people started going to Murray State that weren't scheduled to go to college. People went to Western 3 or 4 years ago, wouldn't have been going to college. So it motivated a whole lot of us. Say, if they can go to college, we can go. Because basically, only people that can afford to go to K-State are some of the other black schools if you know how to get in. And your parents will have enough resources to pay for you to go in. But this is maybe, I don't know when the financial aid started coming in, but it's about that time. So financially, almost anybody could get in. So I was lucky enough, thanks to Mr. Caldwell's math and the teacher I had to pass not the ACT, but I had to pass the other test to get an Oakland City College. The SAT. Again, Miss Caldwell, if you didn't learn your math, and she kept me out after school, I missed a whole lot of school in 3rd and 4th grade. But, I had good teachers, and they knew my circumstance, so I stayed and helped Miss Caldwell. I mean, the janitor clean the floors 50 cents. She'd let me stay, and she'd show me the math. And all the coaches, black coaches, had no projectors. Many of them didn't have much of anything, and they were beginning to have enough good players. They could, a lot of schools could challenge for a state tournament, to win the state tournament. Okay, 69, the coaches, 68 or 69, maybe 60, whenever the coach won the state championship in Louisville. That motivated a lot of people to go on and start the integration because they were loaded. You had Orangeburg, Western, they were loaded. Providence was loaded. Preston Dotson was loaded. And that's why I say a lot of people, I mentioned Mr. McCoy and the coaches that also had the influence on me, because nobody would know. It's like these coaches are saying, I did exist. I did what I did. And a lot of those coaches sacrificed because they could not no longer be head coaches. They either had to leave or become an assistant with not much authority. Okay? So I know who some of them are. I'm not going to mention all of them, but one of the reasons coaches now have problems with African American, some of us, because if you have if you're a college coach, you have a new athlete coming in that's been around African American coaches. They come in with a different agenda. They'll listen to you. They know you can coach. If you haven't been exposed to that, they're gonna question. They'll go, you'll be care how many All-Americans you have. They'll go behind your back and see if you know what you're talking about. I'm talking about people who win national championships. Kid can't chew and gum and walk. Will leave that coach and go behind his back and have somebody who's never done anything. So I mentioned all of them to understand there was some heck of coaching, no facility. So I went to Oakland City College. It was a good experience for me. Why? Well, one, it taught me how to study. We used to have a vocabulary thing every week, 25 words that helped. Matter of fact, I was the freshman president. I never signed up to be no president. They voted me as a freshman president. I won the conference never threw the javelin before. Didn't have no track there either. I always wanted to run the decathlon. I won the shot, won the discus, I won the triple jump. Was second in long jump, second in the javelin. Never threw it before. No, I threw it up at Ben Sims. I threw 147 first time ever. I threw 187 at the conference. Then I also won what they call Little State. All the colleges in Indiana would go up to IU. That first time we rode the bus and participate in the what you call Little State. And I won the shot. I won the triple jump. I won 3 events there. That's why I met Coach Sam Bell. That summer, I went home, had the javelin shot. I heard about the meet called Commanding General meet down at Fort Campbell. So Coach White, I don't know if he went with me or I just drove down there, but I remember these big rebel flags going in down that way on buildings. They have the impression on you. Just like the signs on all the barns, going to Lookout Mountain, Tennessee. But I got down there again, Ralph Boston was jumping. I saw one of the biggest human beings I'd ever seen throwing the shot put. I met Eugene Smith, one of the black shot putters. He was throwing 58, one of the few blacks in America that was throwing 58 that time. I placed second in the javelin. I know I got 3 or 4 3 medals. They are huge. That was one of the big summer meets that you had in around. Wasn't no summer wasn't no age group track. Then I found out about the 20 and under meet that was UK. So I paid my own money, drove my own car, drove up to Kentucky, and I finished 3rd in the triple jump behind Mylan Tiff. mile and jump 51 something, and at 20 and under. I don't know if they had a tour for that, like going overseas, but I was third. And I placed in, I think it was javelin, probably a javelin, or maybe shot a disc. I think I only paid, did 3 events because you had to pay for it. Okay. So that was my experience at Oakland City. And I always wanted to run a decathlon. So I thought about that to someone I called Coach Oglesby. And he had seen me down at Fort Campbell. And I asked him about how could I get on the team. He said, well, just come on down.
What team are
So
you
I
referring to?
Western Kentucky University,
All right.
Coach Oglesby. Now we all celebrate Coach Oglesby. Uh, I'll tell you about that in a second. So I took all my javelins back to Oakland City, took my shot, and your mama had been there the year before. That was another, and I went on to Western because I had visited Western the year before and saw one of the basketball games. I saw all of them going over to South Hall, South Hall, I think it was, after the game, and what a festive occasion it was. So I went to Western. And at Western, now tell you about Coach Oakville. So when I talk about Western, a lot of them assume it's competition between coaches. Uh, Coach Oglesby versus this coach and this team has nothing to do with that. All of us understood that OVC was one of the major conferences at the time. Okay, OVC, and they recruited Black players and athletes. Okay, Murray had a heck of a team. Tommy Turner, Fred Salvi, and others. Coach Cornell was down at Murray. I'm sorry that they dropped their program because they had a historic program as well. Western was a powerhouse. Before distance running, Nick Rose, that was Hector Ortez. Before Jesse, there was other shot. There was Eugene Smith. There was another shot discus thrower through 160 something. I showed him what Bobby showed me about the discus, a hip throwing. He threw 177. So we had a good team, had good sprinters. We had our team. Now, Coach Launders was the assistant coach.
So you transferred from Oakland City College to WKU at this
Yeah,
point?
WKU. Yeah, because I want one. I'd like to have one opportunity to have a track and actual coaching. Even though we were at Western, you learn from each other because two coaches can't coach everybody all the time. So I had Eugene was there first, then John Stewart came, Jesse Stewart came. Jesse was doing 68. Each year, I placed in 3 to 4 events every year I was there. I wasn't going to beat Jesse throwing the shot, but I was third or fourth in the shot. I wasn't going to beat Enix in the discus, but I was third or fourth in the shot in the discus. I wasn't going to beat Tommy Haynes or Barry McClure in our conference, but I was third. I jumped 49, 10 and a half. I threw over 150 in the discus. Had the school record 214 until they got somebody from South America came in through it better.
I'm going to say shout out to Tommy Haynes too.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Tommy Haynes, definitely a great guy. Appreciate you. Yeah,
we've been friends, and Barry McClure, Tommy Smith, Tommy Turner. Everywhere I've gone, they try to send me athletes. Okay, so my career at Western I had in Oakland City. We won the conference when I was at Oakland City. You'll see I had tennis shoes. Didn't have no throwing shoes. If I take the picture of our team, then at Western, Coach Oglesby, we didn't have a lot of money, but a 49-10 would have qualified to go to national. Uh, Coach Oglesby, we have so much respect for him because at that time, we were treated just like everybody else. We stayed in Lexington at the hotel once. Because we had out the money. We rode in cars most everywhere we went. Okay, Henry Jackson was made. He was a great long jumper and triple jumper. He jumped 26. He jumped 52 something. He jumped 53.11, 10 and a half at high school. But at the time, you have to take in consideration the time. Didn't have no special jump shoes. Had javelin shoot boots though. So I had to learn from other people just like the rest of them did. I learned how to hurdle. I get to run the castle but twice. From Herb Washington, Michigan was down. Now, I had a teammate I listened to too, because I had no flexibility. Didn't know how to cheat to the first hurdle. But Herb Washington showed me a drill. And I've used that drill everywhere I've been, and it works perfect. Okay? I was at UK Relays first time, and I was going to throw the javelin. So I asked my friend there, I can't think his name in just a minute, because he had been a javelin thrower. He was from South America. And he showed me how to block. I never blocked. I was caving in every time. So I was warming up throwing about 225, 30. Not enough sense to stop. But all the time I could throw over 200. Okay? So you had to learn from other people. Not that you didn't have good coaches, but they couldn't spend time with you. Ralph Boston, I met him down at the University of Tennessee at a track meet, Dogwood Relay. I was long jumping. I said, give me Mr. Boss. I didn't know him well, so he didn't all call me Ralph. So he took 5 minutes.
Got a Hawkeye.
Well, that's a story. I'm gonna come back to him. And when Paducah don't know your history, and I'm not picking on Paducah, but they don't know the history and connection with Tennessee State. Okay, he told me it took 5 to 10 minutes. I listened to 10. Put your mark when you start. Take your first step mark. Measure your step. I won't tell the rest because somebody repeat it and say, "Oh, I thought of this a long time ago." And I understand why Coach Temple didn't speak at a lot of clinics. They tell me a whole lot.
People take your ideas and say it's theirs all the time.
Yeah. That's why someone want me come over and spend some time. You'll see 4 or 5 people looking through the fence to see what I do. Of course, I don't show them off, but and then that's the whole thing with some of us. We'll tell somebody something. One of them will come back later and explain it to you just like they explained it, like you didn't tell them. The other one will take the idea and say, "I thought of this first." I didn't think a whole lot of anything I did. I always asked people. I did things. I studied track when I was in high school from the Hurdler's Bible because you didn't have no YouTube. I'd read when I jumped 46.9, I know that wasn't world class in high school because I could read. I didn't make up performances as if I was the only one. So I knew where I was placed by looking at track field news. Didn't have no videos to look at. Sometimes I think Mr. White got hold of some 16 millimeter video and you could watch the wide world of sports. That was your YouTube. So reality of where you are. Uh, you wasn't no class. You haven't run against nobody. I always loved, and one reason I left Oakland, I could have won, but I would rather finish behind great performances than to win with no performance, what you thought was a great performance. So, Western, we had 68-foot shot putter. Missed that Coach Launders never get credit for what he did. Everybody did like it. Because I won't use the language. He said, "Get dang bloody BC," and say, "Dang, why don't you come to practice?" To sum up, I came to practice. I learned a lot from it. Actually, when you were in Chile, he wanted to meet you because I'd call him. It was in Australia. He was the Povok coach for our Australian team. He wanted to holler at you and say, "Hey, this coach," but the USA team wouldn't let him come down. He's the one that got Nick Rose to come to Western. He's the one that's from Europe that knew his track club that Dick belonged to. He's the one that brought the other athletes, caused the other athletes to come to Western, which was a controversy at that time. Why are they bringing all these foreign athletes here? Coach Cornell brought a lot of athletes from the islands. Jacobs and why Murray State dropped men's track, it befuddles me because they had just other performances. Murray State had a 3:03-mile relay. Then, two of the athletes, there may have been more, at Murray were in the 72 Olympics. Tommy Turner, Fred Salvi, probably others. Western had, of course, Nick Rose, and you read all the other ones because of Coach Maunder getting them to Western. Now, we didn't have to have that many distance runners while I was there because you didn't have as many events. Okay? So our conference was tough with East Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, had sprinters and jumpers. So our biggest deal was shot put, discus, javelin. We always had a jumper. Our place, like I said, I wasn't going to beat Tommy, and I could huff and puff and wherever I wanted to, but I could be everybody else. Tommy and Barry McClure. They knew how to jump. He cheated. He used a box to practice jumping, and I did. I had no idea of the middle step. And even if I did, I couldn't beat either one of them because they were fast. I was going to beat Jesse Stewart. I wasn't as strong or as big. All three the Stewart boys. Their daddy, Doc Stewart, was a chiropractor. Okay? So they had a great foundation already. Okay? I saw so many great athletes. Brian Oldfield, like I said, down at the commanding general relay. That's the biggest human being I'd ever seen. And he could sprint. He was turning like they do now in 1970, I think it was. He was the only one doing it. Then while they decided whether it's going to be legal or not. He warmed up throwing 75 feet. Could sprint, heck of an athlete. So when I graduated, I just finished sixth in the decathlon out of Wichita. Kids following me around.
From WKU?
Yeah, 73. Right. And one lady didn't want me to go, but Coach Ogun said, yes, he is. So I flew down to Wichita, flew down in Wichita, Kansas, and kids followed me. And I should have gotten to go to the Nationals, but My fault again. I didn't have a good day in the shot. I should have thrown 47, 48. I fouled, so I had to hold back, and I threw 44 or 45 feet. So I lost a couple hundred points there. Didn't have as good a long jump as I should have. I jumped 21 something. I should have been jumping 20. Again, I fouled on one of them, and then I had to take safety because if you mess up any event, you're out. So I jumped 21.9 or something instead of 22, late 22, or maybe 23. A high jump pretty good, 6'1" or 6'2". Now, again, I didn't have, but as you'll see, I have an article when I won the conference, and I say it was my performance. Anything I say, we can look it up.
All right.
Yeah, well, Wichita, Bruce Jenner, and I didn't have a great day in the shot or the long jump. Had a good day in the javelin, threw over 210. Had a decent day in the pole vault because I didn't get to practice. I jumped 10 feet something. Had a decent day in the hurdle, which I didn't practice, 15.3 or 4. Had a better day in the 400. Of course, a better day for me was 53 something. I ran out of gas real quick at 400, 300. I have this breathing issues, and didn't have. I had a decent. Well, for me, I finished at 1,500. I think I scored 250 some points out of that. Because again, after the second or third lap, my breathing was horrible. I finished, had Charlie horses. Took a while for the train to get me going again, but I finished sixth. And I could have scored over 7,000, but when you read what I said at the conference in the Courier Journal, you'll see I would have had to have a good day, and I hadn't had a chance to practice. Because my deal was, in our conference, I need to score in at least 4 events. Long jump sometimes, but the javelin, the discus, the shot, and triple jump. And that's what I did. So that summer, I got a call after I graduated from Paducah. Dr. Whitehead had called me. And it wasn't to be the great football coach. Deal with, we got some issues here. Can you deal with it? Same time he called Mr. Jackson, who had been one of the first black athletes at Murray.
You said they had issues there. Like what?
I'll tell you in a minute.
All right.
Okay. But called Mr. Jackson, come back from Detroit to come back and teach. Because Mr. Jackson had been one of the first black athletes at Murray. And ran track and played football. Went to Jackson State first and then came to Murray. So when I got down there, I had a guy that was the football coach, Dan Haley. Dan Haley knew what was going on. Now, it wasn't a bad situation, but one guy called me and I said, well, Hillman fight song in 66, I didn't tell him what year because I didn't know what year it was I Wish It Was in Dixie. When I got down there, Dan Haley, heckler coach, he had played under Bar Bryant. He had an excellent program. The football team had 2 teams divided up into offense and defense. Had some good quarterbacks. Had 2 good quarterbacks. One ended up being a off-peak surgeon, and the other one, Pascal, who's there in Paducah. So when I came there, my deal was Haven't didn't get to play football because Providence stopped playing football after I broke my ankle playing sandlot football as a freshman. But as a lot of schools was, they had basketball coaches that were assistant in football. So I came in to coach football. I wasn't didn't go there first to play to coach track, even though I wasn't planning on staying in Paducah. It was the ideal place to go though, because West Kentucky Vocational School was still around. Had a number of black professionals that had come there uh, in the 60s and 50s. I wish Mr. Voy had still been there because we would have had a great time because I would give him the respect that he deserved because he was a football coach. Um, West Kentucky Vocational School was still going on. Now, vocational school meant people from all across the country came there for barbering, brick masonry, electrical work. Mrs. Morton was the over the special education department. So people liked for me being there. Mr. Henry was assistant principal. Mr. Joe Dallas was the principal at the time. So I was the football assistant over and JV coach, and a guy named Eversole. I taught special ed, driver's training, and phys ed. 53 something students in my freshman PE class. They had archery. They had many things other schools didn't have. Okay, so it was the ideal place because the people on the boards of education was there. Mr. Hereford, black guy who had a printing shop, did blueprints, the whole works. Mr. Gene Hip had a lumber yard. He was on the board. Mr. Bill Black, who had the construction company. And I'll tell you why they were so important, not so much for football, but for track. Okay, so football, I was the receiver coach. I could throw them 70-yard passes all day long because I was a javelin thrower. So all the receivers, after I learned the patterns, again, Dan Hayden had it organized, so he had a book with all the plays, the steps in running pattern, the patterns they used. So we worked on, I could throw the bullet. Ronald George had some big hands he could catch. Had tight end could play. Alton Dodd could catch. Actually, some of them were all state because I didn't get to see but 2 or 3 games because I was out scouting. That meant I was on top of a building, writing down all the plays, what hole they hit, what kind of defense they got. So I got pretty decent at it. JV team only lost, I don't think we lost, but maybe 1 game. And at the time, I remember we played Sykeston. And if my deal was, I'm going to run at you. So it was Dan Haley's evidently worked because he won more state championships at other places. I'm going to run at you. And if you can't stop my run, I'm going to control the ball all the time. I'm going to pass because once I get you running up, I can throw behind you. I can throw short passes. I can use the tight end. So we didn't lose, but maybe 1 or 2 games. I don't know if we lost any games that year. Dr. Whitehead drove the bus to Sykeston. And I remember us beating Sykeston. And he had to call the police to lead us out. That's what I'm talking about dealing with. And sometimes African American athletes don't want to listen to, after integration, don't want to listen to a black coach because they assume things they don't know. Now, football, again, won the state championship. Darrell Anderson would knock your head off. He was a linebacker. Of course, most of them don't. Maybe see him around town, think he don't have no idea how impactful he was at the game. The line was big, a good line. Had 210, 217, I think, was one of the white head boys who had a good center, had some good linemen, tackles. Bob Blackman, they called him the plow. Coach Black,
Yeah.
he was on that team. Willie Wilson, no, and Greg. I remember I did see the state game, and Willie, Greg Titsworth, one of them missed the block, and I remember the hit that they received from it. But that was one heck. That state tournament game, it was one heck of a game. Some really hard hit. Dow went on to Memphis. Bob went to Memphis. McFarland, I think he's a orthopedic surgeon. I don't know how far. I think he was one for some of the pro team. So people don't know how good that 73 team was. It's not against anybody else, but it's against how simple the game became, because Dan's philosophy was, if you can't stop me running, then you can have a long game. But I'm going to control the ball. It's a lot of hard hit. Okay? So that fall, the foot track coach was in a accident. And I took over. Of course, they tried to make me be an assistant. No. I didn't do all the studying about track to be nobody's assistant. So after debating or whatever, I became the girls' track coach. I didn't become the girls' track coach to outdo the coach who was there before me. He was the first one to win the state championship. I couldn't outdo him because he won first as far as winning the state championship. Couldn't beat Miss Gunner, who was the girls' track coach, before he got it. Because my job wasn't to outdo anybody. It was add to the program and show that, especially football, that we can call plays. We could coach. Some of us that didn't get an opportunity to be a head coach again, after integration, all the black coaches became assistant coaches. And most of them wasn't allowed to call plays. Dan made sure I could. Okay? I never, and people don't know what I heard behind closed doors when they didn't know I was around. And I won't tell them. Okay? So it was very successful first year. Again, after that, we practiced and played. So I took over the track job. First job I did, first meet, I took some age group kids to Memphis. A lot of African American males thought they were doing me a favor. Miss Helen Smith said, "Coach, you're going to have to drive all the way to Memphis by yourself." So she didn't get paid. She drove the bus to Memphis. I competed just to show them what I could do. I won the high jump, the long jump, whatever. Some of the guys probably have no memory of it by selective memory. First year I was there, we won the state. Michael Johnson's mama, Sherlin, was one of the first athletes that I sent anywhere. I couldn't go because Vonda was getting ready to be born. So I sent her with Coach Cornell to Wichita. She almost made it to the finals. She ran 56.2 in high school. 56.2. I took kids to Junior Olympics in Jeffersonville. I drove the bus. Your mama, of course, always gave support. Now, I'm going to talk about that a little later when you don't hire black men anymore. I'm talking the right African American men, especially when they have a wife, because they determine what a lot of girls see as being normal. Okay, I'll talk about that a little later. But first meet club, and if they think somebody else did it first, I still got the video of Lynn didn't run in high school first year. She was in middle school, 64, but she ran after the meet was over in Junior Olympics. Went to Jeffersonville, Indiana. Tony Clark, the 10-year-olds were close to national record time for the 4x1. Little Shumpert, his brother Willie, Shumpert, he ran. Derek Thomas, Tony Clark, uh, Anderson, Kenneth Anderson. They ran a good 4x1, but Lynn qualified for the Junior Olympics regional, which was in Gary, Indiana. Leola Greer qualified. Another kid named Mays qualified again. Some of the boys assumed they were helping me. Now, they don't know my reputation. So you have to deal with all the crazy stuff. But kid named Mays went, and he didn't qualify for the national. At that time, Chevrolet, if you won your region, you got to go to the nationals in Ithaca, New York. Lynn ran. Of course, I have the video. So anything I say, I can show you. Sherlin finished third in the 4x1, 400. Leola was close, so she didn't make it to the nationals, but Lynn ran at the nationals in Ithaca, New York. Now, her male family have no idea how good that was. And a lot of them in her own family have no idea that a 15-year-old, 14 or 15, at the time was one of the top spinners in the country. Now, 11-7, no, she didn't run 11-7 then. But 75, we won the state again. Of course, this trophy was stolen, and we went in Bowling Green. Chanel Meade finished won the 400. She was third in the long jump behind the girl that jumped 20 feet. And Gail Harris at the time, Watson now, doctor, was second. Lynn and one of the worst things that day was Laura Lynn finishing either first, second, or third and got missed altogether in the hurdles. Janice Ridgway was just as good as Lynn, but I couldn't get her to run during the summer. Leola Greer, after we won that year, I'll go to the Junior Olympics. We went to Gary. No, but to Gary, wherever we went for a region, and Lynn won the region. We first we went to Wichita first. I had Lynn and Leola. Leola was a 24-6 200 at the junior national, but at Wichita, Lynn finished second behind another lady that eventually was in the Olympics who ran for Texas Women's College. Now, most of them didn't have scholarship for women. Some would be developing scholarship. 75 and 75, except for Murray State. Murray State had women's track from 66 or 67, more like a club than a track team. So that year, took Lynn to whatever region it was, but she also went to the junior national. If some of the rest of them have run They could have gone to the junior national too. So I had Leola Greer. Like I said, she ran 24.6 in the 200. She qualified for that. And then I had Lynn, who was fourth in the 100. She ran 11.7 in the 100 meters. Now she was fourth behind 3 Tiger Bell, Brenda Moorhead, Kathy McMillan. I can't think of the other young lady. Also that year in high school, we went down to Knoxville for the meet. Kathy McMillan jumped 22.5 or 6. I had a video, a 16 millimeter camera to take the pictures, but somehow I couldn't get it to work. I would have that recorded. But the same meet, Janice finished third. Lynn would have been in the top 2 or 3. Hightower, I think, finished second, maybe third, fourth. And Kathy McMillan won the 100. Lynn pulled a hamstring, and I didn't let her run the final. We were in Knoxville, Tennessee, 1975. Had 2 go to the Nationals, 1975. Who did we meet at the National? I met Will Chamberlain. Hey, Newt, he's Kappa. Talked to him. Talked to one of my best friends later was Dick Ford. So I asked him, because he had some great half miles and quarter miles. And we talked, and he talked about hill running. We became great friends. I met Coach Temple. I met a whole lot of people that were national coach. Brooks Johnson. Back then, they had the D.C. International Track Club. Talked to him. He had a high jumper, half miler. She was 6 foot high jumper at the time. So I always, when I met people who had done something, I always asked them. Fred Wilt was at Purdue, who had written a book about track and field. Was with the FBI for a long time. I have his number. So I have a Rolodex of all the great coaches that I had met, talked to. They knew me. So I came back to Paducah, and you'd think that I'd have a whole lot of athletes coming out because we've been so successful. But, at some places, it's a little different, okay? Judy came out. She came out the next year. Okay, we had a heck of a season again. Didn't go to Wichita, but we went to Carmel, Indiana. Judy got to run at the Hall of Fame meet in Charleston, West Virginia. Lynn ran at Charleston meet at the Hall of Fame meet. Ralph Boston was there. That's where he was holding Vonda. I don't know where the picture is. I wish I could. When she was a baby. Charleston, West Virginia. Lynn won the outstanding athlete. Now, that means she was running against athletes from all over, especially a team from Cleveland. The boys ran 3:10 in the mile relay. So it was an awfully good meet. Again, most people don't realize Lynn was in the back of Track and Field News as whatever they always show athletes, hey, but 2 of you, and I think you were when you were in high school. Ever come from Paducah. Then went over, drove from there in my van. Your mama riding us. Went to Carmel, Indiana. Had some of the athletes from Kentucky. And I won't name off, Sherry Ballou was there. She was a graduate student at the time. Pat Blackburn, Lynn, And I also met some of my friends from Gary again. So why am I mentioning Gary? 75, I had one of the biggest summer meets in Paducah. In Paducah, summer meet with not only Gary, had East St. Louis, two teams from, and I named them later, some of the coaches that supported me coming to Paducah, young guy that they'd met, and came to the meet. Coach Emmanuel Prout from Louisiana, from New Orleans, drove all the way up. Indianola, Mississippi was there. Ralph came and spoke at a clinic. 5 people showed up. Coach Jackson, somebody from Liscombe, I think it was, news reporter. And I apologize to Ralph forever for that. I said, man, he said, well, hey, don't worry about it. No, he was on Wild World Sports 2 weeks ago, before then, announcing. Now, and I mentioned that again. There was Terre Haute Track Club, Knoxville Track Club. Some of them were actually in the Olympics later. I won't name them, but she's with USA Track and Field right now. Okay? Had Boston Carr from the St. Louis Blues, and the Royal Knights from St. Louis came down. Terre Haute Track Club. There was a number of them go all the way to Paducah from New Orleans, Coach Emmanuel Prout. I don't know if the other team from New Orleans came down for sure or not. But those were the elite track clubs across the country. So Paducah made money off of that. I didn't make a dime. I never charged any kid that came to my practice a dime to practice with. One of them, Choo-Choo, I talked to him not too long ago. Do you have whatever in faith in God to do that with us? I said, no, I ain't have nothing to do with Choo-Choo. I let him practice with us because of Herm's league. He had finished 4th at the state. He came and practiced with me. He won at 15, 16, 200 in the dark almost. In Memphis, Lynn finished 2nd in the 100. A woman from Ashland was a discus thrower. I'd never coached her. Took her down there. She played. I think her name is I'm talking. She remembers more of that than either one from Paducah. He thought he was doing me a favor. He still hadn't figured it out. So after that, most of the boys never run with me again. So it'd been about, I didn't need them. I mean, anyway, when y'all want to run with me, I'll send you somebody else. A guy named White had a track club. He called me. I said, look, these other guys don't want to run with me for whatever reason. Here's some names. So Connor and some of them ran with him. So after 79, Judy, she'll fight you over Coach Orton because she understands. Now, here's the thing about some of these women. You look at the women that I coach, how many engineers you have. Look at the husbands they choose. That should say something to somebody. When you stop African American males being involved with African American females, just think what you're doing. I'm not talking about the thugs and cuss them, treat them like whatever. The African American males that they can see a husband and wife, see what relationships should look like. Your mother mentored a lot of those kids.
This is true. They'll never say it. Well, not a lot of them.
A lot of those kids, a lot of those, they are successful. Again, blows my mind. Walden, say her name, Tanya Walden, engineer. Uh, uh, the whole group, you look at that whole group, how many of them are successful and able to choose quality black men, or men, period. Okay? I didn't just have Paducah kids. I had kids from other women, young ladies, from other schools that I took. Why would I let Felicia Penner, who was at Callaway County, come and stay at our house, sleep on that couch at Forest Hills, when she's going to be competing against? Cheryl Blower said, well, talking about Felicia Penner. Felicia ran with me during the summer. She's a relative to the Greenwells in Sturgis. She ran with me that summer. She had experience, and she learned not to run the Kentucky quarter. What do you mean by that? Jog the first 110 to try to run people down. She ended up running well out at Las Vegas. Had a whole lot of, I didn't coach Stephanie Hightower, but I knew Mamie Rollins at Tennessee State. There's a lot of them across the state that ran with me that I never coached them, but I gave them opportunity, the same opportunity Coach White had given me, Frank White, and Coach McCoy Chandler. Boys or girls didn't matter to me. As you know, when you came along, I knew a lot of stuff that you had to deal with because I was dealing with it also. Paducah never realized when I was at Western, I had Angie, I'm going to skip on to Western from Tillman because 79, we won the state. Could have won it every year, but a lot of them wouldn't come out. And I always had a policy, don't come to practice, you don't go to meets. And I put up with a lot of stuff until April 15th. It was like tax day. Either you signing on or you're signing off. And the kids that never ran during the summer missed being good. See? Just like you. Every year, whatever you had to deal with, 2 weeks later, you're a different Jason. Danielle, every year after high school, there's 2 seasons with me. The season that we're dealing with high school, and you got to be healthy enough to run. And then when we're going to peak and we're going to get the work done. Those that didn't run with me and they ran with somebody else, you probably have never figured it out. How you went from running decent times to running great times or whatever. So I went, Coach Ogilvy called me. My respect for him. We had just bought a house not long before then, and was doing pretty decent. And he called me and said, look, again, I didn't come to Paducah to outdo anybody. Everywhere I go, I add to it. Crab barrel mentality didn't go up in Miss Annabelle's house. Always enough success for anybody. And any coach that does better than me, I am so happy for them. Because that means they've helped somebody. You can't cuss your way into being good at what you do. Because all you're doing is bringing toxicity to people. They pick a husband that's nasty talking. Toxicity becomes a reality for people. You don't have to cuss it. I've said damn 2 times since I've been coaching. One is I didn't know I said it. One girl said she missed the hurdle. I guess I said it. I don't know. But the other one was on purpose. One girl said, I should get to run instead of this. This was an African-American girl said, I should get to run ahead of her. And my reply was, you haven't scored 1 damn point since you've been here. The other girl ended up winning the state championship. And she had been with me and was loyal to the program and ran better than this girl. Girl scored no points at the state meet. That's the one time I know I said, okay. So at Western, we go to Western. Coach Carly Coffey, who had been at Murray, she had also been at Tennessee State. I didn't go to Western to outdo Coach Coffey. Okay. I came to add to it. Had a young lady from Lexington named Victoria Gay at the time. Came in, she was throwing 130 something in the discus, 40 feet with an 8-pound shot. Had a girl named Lori Coca-Cola from Canada. She was throwing 140 in the discus and 40 feet in shot. Had Miss Gail Watkins. She had already graduated. She just had a child, and she was coming back, and she was a hurdler. She was a good hurdler before I came. Okay, I didn't come to have some good athletes. Had a couple that were good high jumpers but didn't like practice. So I had to take what I had. Had a distance run, only one distance runner. First year there, in cross country, we could have placed in the top 3, but I had one, I won't name her, but she was a quarter miler. I used a quarter miler. I used what's called Sheila Clay, who quarter miler. Had two other girls. I had a girl named Kathleen Bimal. Was Kathleen there the first year? I don't think she was there the first year because cross country only had 4 show up at the conference in Bowling Green. There's one girl who would have helped us place in the top 3, didn't show up, so I couldn't score in the cross country. So we went indoors. I think we went to, we finished 9th indoors in the track. Had a young lady named Angie Bradley at the time. Angie jumped 20 feet 4 indoor. Victoria finished 4th, and Vic and Lori finished 4th, maybe 3rd and 4th in the shot. And it's either Victoria or Angie, it was either Sandra Thomas, somebody else finished in the top 4 in the, I think it was 55. We went to Texas Southern Relays, went to Becky Boone Relays. Sheila was always dependable. Had one girl named Sandy Scythe. She should have made All-American, but she didn't like practicing too much. She was good enough that she could jump 5'9" if she wanted to. I timed on a 4 by in the 800, 209 in the 800. But she wasn't really interested in going to a national meet. So first year, I had some good athletes. I only had 8 scholarships. Actually, Kathy Hyde had been in an accident, so she never got to run cross country or track until the next year. I had a girl that could have been a really great decathlete. She ran cross country for me too. We survived. But then the outdoor track, we finished 3rd in the OVC. Lori qualified for the Nationals. Vic qualified for the Nationals out of Eugene, Oregon. Lori threw 154, 53 or 54 the first year in the javelin. She threw 42, 43 in the shot. 140 something in the discus. She wasn't throwing it when she came. Vic threw 154. She was 4th at the Nationals. Lori was 4th at the Nationals in the javelin. Vic threw 46 in the shot. and 154, 144 in the javelin. She'd never threw it before. 3 days. Vic was American Gladiator. She was Jazz American Gladiator. Uh, so Angie finished in the. She finished. She was All American twice. Once indoors, one outdoors. I know it. She may have been before. No, she wasn't before that. Before I got there, because she jumped 18.5 or 18.6 before I got there. She jumped 20 feet 4. Miss Gail Harris, she'd already graduated, but she was doing good in the hurdles. And she won many indoor meets, and she made a team. She went over in Europe and ran after she graduated. But I think she jumped 21.4 or 5 at Indiana the next year. The next year, Lori and Vic came back. Lori threw 140, 167, 68 in the javelin, 44 in the shot, 145 or 146 in the discus. Vic threw 168 in the shot in the discus, 48.9 or whatever. 140, well, I could say 145. It was the second year she threw 145 in the discus. We were feeling good. We finished third in the conference first year. Second year, we finished second. They both, 3 of them made All-American out in Oregon. Mount St. Helens blew up. That's a whole nother story. The next year, I would go to Texas. And actually, that was your first year. First track meet. Okay? So we finished second in the conference. We couldn't win because I didn't have but 8 scholarships. Murray had 17. Eastern had 17 scholarships. The coach from Eastern, the guy that's male coach, he said, "Man, you should have been the coach of the year." But, you know what? We had 132 and they had 140 something. I had Tina Jordan, who was a miler, Kathleen Bimel from Owensboro. I had the girl that I said could have been really good in the half and high jump. She was competitive, but she just didn't like practice too much. And Vic and Lori, they qualified for the Nationals at Vic, qualified for the Nationals second year. Lori, Veda Allen, who was a 400-meter hurdler, she transferred from Tennessee. She ran 61 in the intermediate hurdles. She ran 58.11 and qualified. We had Sarah Lewis from Memphis, 100 meters. She qualified for the National. They had 6 that qualified for the Nationals in Austin. And that was your first track meet when you were a baby. When y'all stand in front of the big tower.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the first track meet you went to. So you were 5 or 6 weeks old then. And who knows what, imagine you graduate from that. But Lori she was in the top 5, top 4 in the javelin. Vic was in the top 4 in the shot, the discus. Lori made to the semifinal. And that's when we had one heck of a rain. I remember from leaving from the wherever the airport was, either Air Force or Navy, wherever it was where they had the discus, start raining. And we got almost back to the track, man, water was up to the doors. And that's hard to believe because it's on the hill. But it was. They had a little creek behind the stadium, the old stadium. First time they had nacho. But then we got back, and we were getting ready to get loaded because I had friends from Motor City, Coach Ford, that's one of my good friends. By the way, when I had that meet in Paducah, Joe Wilson, I have to give him credit. They hugged with me. Williams, Byron Williams, Mr. Overland, Mr. Stacy Overland. His son didn't throw, but he came, and Sam Burris. I think there was six, and Hargrove, Robert Hargrove. Of course, the Kappas always came through when I overdid stuff and had to raise some money. They always came through. Mr. Hickson. I can name the people from Paducah that ever came to the meet. They had no idea what was going on. I had another summer meeting. I'm gonna come back to it, where the AKs ran against the Deltas, the Kappas ran, and Herbert Martin still got his medal, a trophy from that. So I did all kinds of stuff, but not a whole lot of support. And like I said, when I came to Paducah, it was a great place to come. Reverend Harvey has straightened up a whole lot of stuff in Paducah as far as hiring city employees.
So he was the only one that took me around when I graduated, and they didn't want to hear from me. And I appreciate him for doing that. Go ahead. Gotta give a shout out to Reverend Harvey.
Oh, well, see, and that, they forget. They couldn't go in the top level of, it had to go up in the balcony in Paducah to watch movies. A lot of people down in City Hall should be thankful that he was there when he was there, because he helped change a lot in Paducah. Whether you like him or not, don't matter. A West Kentucky Vocational School, how influential was for a whole lot of people from Detroit to everywhere. Great chefs like your cousin in Detroit just had something with one of the great, what's his name, the singer. Yeah. So government employees that came from their business program, women that went to Washington, D.C. And I was so blessed to have so many great role models there to talk to. The street named after one of those. He was the president at West Kentucky Vocational School. Hickson, Walkers, a whole lot of people, Mr. Clark, Reverend, just a whole lot of people, Dr. Morton and Miss Morton. And I want to make sure I express that, because, hey, a lot of things I couldn't have done if it wasn't for them, because they knew. And I've always been surprised that when I asked them about Lincoln. People that went to Lincoln, oh, I didn't never go to that. I said, wait a minute. I had two people that died, Herms, and I don't even know who Herm Lee was. Then there's another one that died this past year, and I sent the picture. One of my people that do remember everything, it was his cousin. They had a nickname for him. I asked black folks, they didn't have the clue who he was. Batman. I called a white guy. There was one of his teammates. Oh yeah, Batman. So I never understood that, how 6 or 7 years later, from integration 65 to 66, and by the time I got there, they had already forgotten that there was a Lincoln. So I'm glad they're finding out there was a Lincoln. Some of they had band, they had McVoy had football, they had basketball, they had track team, and some of their own children didn't know they ran there. That's on there. But let me get back to Western. So Vic ended up doing really well. Lori, you met her out at Lincoln when you won the USATF. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to catch up with her, because Vic, Lori, and Angie deserve to be in Western's Hall of Fame, because they made All-American. It don't matter if you're male or female. So that's why I've been trying to get in contact with Lori. But one person thought I was trying to compete against one other team at Western, and she never returned. So I think Lori ended up winning the javelin out at Texas. Vic went to Texas Southern. She called me the other day, Coach Ward. So an American Gladiator. She's done really well. Uh, uh, Dr. Watson, she's got a PhD. She's one of the people that I was telling you that when you do it with the uniform people kept up. So as I go on down the line, anywhere I've ever been is never to take away from anybody else. But if you listen to me, sometimes you ought to listen to me and see if I know anything about distance runs, throw the pack. Uh, you want to sit down and talk about anything, any type of training, and before you make a judgment, how much you know more than I do. And anything I know, I borrowed it from somebody.
How long did you stay at WKU, and when did you go back to Paducah?
Well, 79, I left. I went back in 82. And the only reason I left, we were so happy we were ninth indoors in the track meet. And Western changed conference. I only had 8, supposed to give me 10 the next year. I took a chance to come into Western because I still had my house in Paducah and was just getting starving. And I was going to sell my house if I got the 10 scholarship. They went from the OVC to the Sun Belt. That ruined my whole plans. Vic said, Coach, I gotta go. She's going to transfer. I said, well, I can't stop. So Vic went to Texas Southern. Dave Bethany, a friend of mine. Lori went to Texas because they saw her throw in Texas. And I said, look, I'm not making no money anyway. So I said, well, I got to go because of this reason, that, but I just felt betrayed because I wasn't making no more money. And I had people coming from, also while I was talking about the track meet, the Zappers from Chicago, because I had some athletes that are going to come from Gary. I had black and white athletes coming because I was going to jack up. I had a really good distance runner from Central, white kid, girl from Central that's coming. So I want to make sure you understand it's not what color you are, it's what you can do with what you got. Needed some Kentucky athletes mixed in with the out-of-state athlete, and she was good. So I would have 5 good distance runners that next year. Tina Jordan. And had some great sprinters coming because they saw, hey, if these kids are making All-American, you got 5, 6 that qualify for the national second year here, and the nationals getting better. That was the same time that UCLA was tough. When we saw, what's her name? Gail D. Was Gail D. Was it? No. I'll tell you in a minute. But anyway, it was a quality meet. See, women's track, 75, a lot of schools just started getting scholarships. People don't understand. I showed something about Coach Temple, and I'm going back, digressing a little bit. But when people look at Coach Temple, they have no idea how brilliant he was, how fast Wilma Rudolph was. Their track stadium was Gentry. Indoor track was Gentry Arena, which is a gym. Ran on no great track at all. Ran 22-3 indoors. Didn't have no shoe contracts. Wasn't on scholarship, on work study. And the jar, they don't even understand the jar. I competed, I could do good. Just imagine what she could have done if she was making $1 million back then. Had a shoe contract, made money. Then, our Coach Temple, how many great athletes there? Somebody a couple years, well, hadn't been that long ago, talking about Ralph Boston. Ralph came from Laurel, Mississippi. You know, we were going to go down there then. I thought about going to Laurel, Mississippi, even now. And I said, well, how close to the airport? I had to think about it. But Laurel, Mississippi, in the 50s and 60s, and come up with a Ralph Boston. And I talked to him not too long before he passed. He said, about a, you need to get your book done. He said, they all want to make it up. Like I was looking through a fence and somebody saw, oh, here's a good looking guy. We show him how to long jump. Ralph was great. He was one of 10 kids. Won the state championship in football in black and the quarterback.
I got to speak with him right before he passed again. I was supposed to be having an interview with him, but he passed. But
yeah,
a great dude, great guy.
He helped a whole lot of them if they were too dumb to listen on them. But this guy was comparing himself to him. I said, this is a black guy that missed the whole point nine Ralph. Jumped 6'9" in the high jump. Now, take your butt and look back, get something on Google and say, what did it look like in Lower Mississippi in 58, 59, and 60? Tennessee State, what facilities they didn't have. Wilma Rudolph didn't have no elaborate gym. Martha White didn't have no elaborate gym. So today's athletes, especially us, we want to compare us, like in basketball, compare with now athletes versus history. And all they're doing is destroying history. Oscar Robertson, I just ran into a guy while I was looking at a coat at a store. And he's from Indianapolis. Man, we start talking about Oscar Robertson. You can't compare no athlete today with Oscar Robertson. He had to start off with shooting a can in the waste can. You can't compare yourself with imagine Ralph running hurdles, didn't have no hurdles. Wilma Rudolph, 22. Imagine what she could have done, had a decent surface. Had money, meals, and all things that they should have had. So when you look at old athletes, one of the things that Facebook is able to do is divide us and conquer us. Everything's got to be the GOAT. What GOAT are you talking? You can't compare Wilt Chamberlain with GOATs now. A lot of things they had to do to drive. Oscar Robertson had to tape his own leg most of the time. So a lot of things that is by design. If I can discredit history to make myself look good and don't know what I just did, it perpetuates itself. Yeah, I look at who's the GOAT between Michael Jordan and LeBron. They both rich. Both of them be a GOAT. Rabbit, squirrel, whatever. Just donate some money to somebody. So that's why they do that. Who now that all the entertainers are arguing, so they destroy each other. Had a girl that was on listen to the radio talking about black men. Don't take no job at the post office. You ain't no good man. Don't work here, don't work there. You're not a quality man. That's the big deal now, to separate women versus men. If you don't make $200,000, you're not a quality human being. No matter what this person looks like, well, quality man don't want no.
We are in an extremely selfish world, and a lot of things are backwards, and people won't realize it until it's too late, which it is what it is.
It's by design. See?
Well, you can't tell people it's by design if the design is helping them out on the surface.
On the surface. Now, they will see a lot of things are apparent now. As for example, too many African American women are doing so well. Who's prosecuting who? So, so that ain't going to continue to happen. Not that we can have anything to do with it. They're going to look for everything. Look, the president of Harvard. They're going to be looking at anything to change the direction. But it's like I said with coaching. Women can coach just as good as men. Okay, but don't get it twisted. A female that has a chance to be around a positive male. I'm not talking about the ones that thugs. Makes a difference in their selection of quality men. They won't judge by how many $100,000 they make a year. Because the $100,000 a year man gonna look for $100,000 same or a same female to be with.
Well, not only that, it's a lot less headache for somebody to understand. So I'll just leave that there. We can keep it moving. But before we get too far away from it, because we could lead into a whole nother conversation on that. So from Paducah back to Bowling Green, back to Paducah, and also mentioned that you coached at Kentucky State for a period of time. Overall, if you had to give a message to the listeners about what it takes in reference to daily discipline, what message would you give to them to encourage them to put their best foot forward?
Okay, here's a perfect example. Again, I never, ever ask anybody that was at my level. I asked people that were above my level, or I love talking to older people. If you don't talk to older people, you'll fall for anything. The world didn't begin with you. You're only here for a short period of time. You can't lie call it a lie may or a resume. I talked to Coach Temple because he'd been successful. I talked to Coach Ralph Boston because he'd been successful. I asked him why. He told me, said, hey, that girl's overtrained. So I understood that. I understood how to fashion my workout so it's a workout for the regular season. And then when we're going to peak, that's another season. I never helped a kid from another coach and meddle with them when they're coaching them. When the kid leaves me, I send him back to their coach because that coach got to work on his own thing. He got to develop his team. I don't want to be interfering with his team. So you don't have to make up a lie or assume life began with you. Have people won't know who Coach Temple is, even though it's in the history book. I can talk about other coaches, but I'm not going to say anything about Coach Gibson because Randy, they're going to do a biography on him, so I'm not going to take anything away from them. Coach Ford drove all over the world. Coach Emmanuel Coley from Mayor Hatcher Youth Foundation drove from Gary to California many times. He came down to Paducah too. Good friend of mine. Sometimes when you stop in other people, you stop in yourself. For example, Lynn may not remember, when we were in California, she got to be in the elevator with Slide and Family Stone. He was back over in the corner. She got to ride in Will Chamberlain's Mercedes from the hotel to the track. Never hurt another person. Now, here's a perfect example. Coach White, didn't worry about me get his reputation by sending me to Bob Thomas. After Bob Thomas showed me stuff, I went back and Coach White was still coaching me. You don't have to be the only person. Don't hurt other people trying to hurt somebody else. What you do to others will stay. If it's a positive, people grow up. When you put negative in them, when you talk nasty to kids when they're young, they become adults. They remember what you say. You can be tough on a person running. You hang with me, you're going to have to hustle. You have to work. But I don't have to cuss you to get you to do it. The best relationship you have is when you don't have, you got that personal relationship with them. When they're running or jumping, they look up in the stand, they say, okay, I got this. I got this. I remember you down in Florida. You don't remember. You're long jumping, I think you're 10, 11. And I'm getting on you about getting your steps.
You acting like I don't remember all that. Don't say what I don't remember. I remember all that. Trust me.
And you said, I got this. I got this. Okay.
Right.
You got this. But see, that's the thing. I knew a lot of things that you were going through. Go ahead.
You go ahead. You got I just wanted to see what message you have for the people, but I appreciate your response. We have to do a part two. I don't hold you too long, but I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing some of your path with us, and appreciate you for what you've done and what you do.
Oh yeah, I've been blessed through it all. Nothing that you've done was by accident. Everything people that see my family sacrifice, never complained about other kids where I could have just taken you. Each of you had to deal with stuff that you should never have to deal with. But that's all good. I knew what was going on with each of you. And that's why one day I apologized to all of you. And apologize to Wesley, Mr. Jackson's son, and I won't say why. Coach McVoy's son, John, for whatever you had to go through, I apologize for the rest of it. Hey, but hey,
people never understand, never understand. But at the same time, they don't understand the strength that came from it. And that's the reason we are who we are.
So, oh yeah, yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. If you didn't take advantage of it, it's on you.
Yeah. So okay. I appreciate you. I'm gonna jump off here, and like I said, we have to get together again for part two.
Okay. We take it easy.
All right, you do the same.
Bye.
Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this episode of Daily Discipline. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. There was a lot of nuggets that were shared, and I hope it helps you along the way. So, as always, I will leave with this. I hope this message reaches you well and helps you along the way. Be encouraged and make this day a great day.